rival a boss and look for votes. You rival a boss by eliminating him. You know, look, money is always at the root of just about everything there. You know, if you're good, you make people earn, people like you. That's the bottom line, you know, and if they don't like you, they'll tolerate you because you're earning with them. But he was kind of known to be a greedy guy, and he didn't fit the profile of the real mob boss in a way, you know. Gotti doesn't make that move on his own. He kind of solicits people, hey, what do you think? He tries to get some support that if this were to happen, you know, how are people going to react? So he kind of knew how it was going to work out if he took him out.
Every time you had a run-in with him, you've had obviously many run-ins with him, you've done a couple sit-downs with him. How was Gotti like, personality-wise? Why did he have this, you know, larger-than-life story and nowhere near the kind of money you brought him? What made him that special?
Well, you know, he fit the Hollywood profile, so to speak. I mean, he had the look, he had the mannerisms. You know, one thing I will say about John, I happen to like him. You know, socially, a lot of fun. We would go in a club, a lot of fun. I mean, he was a good guy to be around. Business, he didn't really understand business. And it was a nightmare dealing with him in that respect, because the one thing about Gotti, in his mind, he always had to come out on top. He could never be a loser, never. So it was very hard to negotiate and do anything. You had to make him think that he won, even if you were winning. It was the only way to get around and get something out of him. So you had to kind of have that mentality going in with him. But it was very difficult to deal with in that regard. I respected him because he made no bones about who he was. Yeah, I'm a gangster, I'm a mobster, I love this thing, that's all I am, and that's all I ever want to be.
And he was public about it.
Yeah, he was public about it, and that was it. You know, people say he destroyed the life. He didn't destroy the life, you know. I mean, we all destroyed the life, you know. The government just one-upped us with their technology, with the laws, with the informants they had.
I remember reading this where you said, when you went to prison, they didn't bother you. When he went to prison, he got bullied in prison.
My father taught me something. He said, Mike, when you go into prison, remember three things, three words that are going to take you, make you have an easy go of it with other guys. Remember to say, please, thank you, and excuse me. You know, because you bump into somebody, excuse me. You know, you ask somebody, please, may I have this? You don't cut in front of people on the line, because everybody so many guys rather, I should say, that got no respect on the street want to get all the respect in there, because they're putting on a show for everybody else. So little silly things become major things in there. So you can't throw your weight around. Now, you can't take any nonsense. But, you know, people have to understand, you may be the silent type, but don't mess with me, and I'm not going to disrespect you, don't disrespect me. And John carried himself differently, paid the price. And I know a few guys that did that, so.
Business, you wrote this book, I'll Make You an Offer You Can't Refuse. When I read books, you know, I'll leave my mark and write down. I made so many marks in this that was just, and it's a small book, and I'm amazed. I will tell you, if you haven't read this book, you have to read this book. It was in '09, which social media wasn't around. I hope we can make this book become a phenomenon, because I think every entrepreneur, salesperson, leader must read this book. So make a list of it. We'll put a link on the bottom for you to get as well. You linked it between business and the mafia life that you went through, and you talked a lot of different parts of it. Tell me about the sit-down, which was obviously very big in the business you were in. And sit-down to us, maybe we go into a boardroom and you know, we're sitting and negotiating with our investors or you know advisory board, whatever it is. How was sit-down like for you guys?
Well, it was the basis or the format in which we resolved everything. I mean, anytime we had to resolve a business dispute, something more serious, we did it at a sit-down. That's what we called it. It's funny because my publisher, after they read that chapter, they don't have any more meetings. They have sit-downs now. You know, the whole place is a sit-down. These were high-level, very sophisticated meetings, believe it or not. And we had certain rules. You know, if you're a made guy and you're at a sit-down, you had to be respectful, no matter what the situation was. In other words, if I'm a made guy and I'm arguing something and I'm lying and you know I'm lying, you can't call me a liar. If you call me a liar, you lose the argument automatically. You have to figure out a way to make people know that you're wrong, that this guy is wrong and I'm right. And the old timers were very tactful at this. You know, they would try to get you into a trap where you would just say something and you're done. It's all over. So you had to really learn how to respectfully get your point across. And you had to know the mentality of the personality of the person going in. Well, you don't defeat them. These old timers were smart, you know, they were cagey. I had so many of these because it was like every day in my life when I was in the gas business, I had somebody trying to take over, somebody trying to get in. Because, you know, in New York, there's a lot of us. And we were constantly engaging with one another on different matters. And I had a big crew, so the guys in my crew got in trouble. I had to sit down with other people. It was constant way of business. So you learn how to carry yourself there. And it really helped me in my negotiation skills in business. It really helped because going in, I would figure out what I wanted, what I would settle for, and I would keep, you know, I learned one thing. It's always great to let the other person talk. Let him talk. Let him just keep talking. Throw out a word that gets him a little bit and he'll talk more. And as he's talking, you can kind of figure out his mentality, his personality, what you can get out of him, what you can't get out of him. And it helped me a lot in negotiating deals later on. And you know, sometimes you may be the smartest person in the room and you don't want anybody to know that. You just want to keep quiet like you don't know anything. Let them think they're smarter than you.
Interesting.
And there's other times when you're not the smartest person in the room, but you want people to think you are. So you have to learn how to have that skill.
Were you a big reader? Because what you just said is art of war, right? So, you know, when you're strong, you know, you got to show that you're weak. When you're weak, you got to act strong. So were you one that's, I mean, obviously you read Machiavelli, Prince, that was kind of the Bible for the family, right? But were you always reading?
No, I wasn't a big reader, honestly. I became a reader in prison because I have a lot to do. But no, it's just something I developed, I think, along the way. One real talent that helped me, or skill, or two. Number one, I recognized a good deal because I got a lot of stuff thrown at me. And I recognized what was good and what wasn't going to work. And that's important because you can waste your time with stuff all day long. And secondly was, I always say, I knew how to put the right people in the right place and get them and motivated them to do the work properly. My mantra always was at that time, do what you do best and delegate the rest. And then make sure they do the job. And that always worked for me until today. You know, there's things that I'm just not good at and I don't even try to do them. I don't even want to be bothered with it, but I'll get somebody that's going to do them
a
lot better than me.
Obviously,
oh yeah, yeah, had to.
So who was the best guy you saw at a sit down? Were you, every time you went there and you knew he was going to be at the sit down, you either learned a lot from him or you knew this was not going to be an easy one?
Yeah, well, Gotti was tough. I mean, you know, you knew going in, you had to just outsmart him and let him think he won, but you get out of there with what you want. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, I had to deal with him. Long story short, it may sound silly, but it wasn't at the time. We had a big flea market, a swap meet. And there were two partners there. One of them was an accountant, legitimate guy. And he was my guy. And there was another guy that he was partners with that was kind of a street guy. And they couldn't get along. And the kid was stealing out of the market, so the guy came to me. So I threw the kid out of the market. I said, you can't come back. You're done. We're taking it over. Well, he runs to John. And John says, he gets in touch with me. He says, Mike, this kid belongs to me and half the market is mine. I said, John, the guy didn't even know who you were. He ran to you, now all of a sudden you know him your whole life, you know? That's what happens in that life. So I have a big sit down and we can't get along. And I said, I told my guy, I said, you're never gonna get along with this guy and I'm never gonna get along with John in this market. I said, so we have to do something. Either we're gonna buy him out or he's gonna buy us out. So I knew at the time that he would never stand for me buying him out. Never.
Pride.
Yeah, pride. So I had to have him buy me out. But if I told him to buy me out, he wouldn't buy me out. So I went in there and we sat down. I said, John, I'm buying you out. And the first words, it's like I knew, you don't buy me out, I buy you out. I said, no, I'm buying you. We went back and forth. Finally, I gave in. I said, all right, buy me out, you know. So he buys me out. You know, we get out, we share the money or whatever. 3 months later, the market went down. He closed it because I knew what they were going to do. Now, who got the better end of the deal? I don't know, because I know what I got. Who knows how much he got when he busted the market out.